You've probably heard that because Russia is advancing on the battlefield, it is winning the war in Ukraine. And you've probably also heard that because those advances are very slow and extremely costly, it is not. But these are sound bites designed for propaganda. They're not what serious strategists on either side are looking at as they consider their next actions. After all, if in early 1918 you'd looked at the British Army's ratio of casualties to ground taken over the previous 4 years, you would never have predicted Germany's defeat later that year. You might even argue that Germany never did lose the First World War, but that didn't help their negotiators in November that year. War, in other words, is not linear. So against the backdrop of peace talks, as much as we're focused on land grabs and territorial exchanges, there is a far more important metric to look at. The real propositions being tested on the battlefield are: can Russia sustain its offensive effort long enough to put Ukraine in an untenable position, which they're not in yet? Or will Ukraine's defense prove viable enough to exhaust Russia's offensive capability? If not this year, then next. Those are the questions that Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky will be looking at as they weigh up whether to settle now or hold out for a better outcome. Both sides have their breaking points, which could swing the pendulum. For Ukraine, losing its key fortress towns of Slavyansk and Kramatorsk in Donbass would deprive it of key defences and make its position much less sustainable in this war or any future war. And that's why Vladimir Putin is pushing hard for that as a condition for peace, and why Mr. Zelensky would rather fight on than surrender it. Then there's the money. Russia's economy did surprisingly well in the first few years of war despite Western sanctions, but the party seems to be over. The IMF is forecasting just 0.9% growth this year. Its steelmakers are reporting falling profits and output as the economy slows. There's discussion of consumer price caps to tackle rampant inflation. And then there are the impossible to predict or control factors like the oil price. If that falls, it could seriously hurt Russia's long-term prospects. Back to the battlefield and the rather grim question of attrition of manpower. Here, Russia has the upper hand. It seems to have enough men to replace its battlefield losses, while Ukraine is struggling with a shortage of infantry. That's one reason Russia is advancing slightly more quickly this year than last. But Russia's so far proven incapable of using that advantage in numbers to deliver a winning blow. Even a dramatic apparent breakthrough last week ended in defeat. And its resources are not infinite either. It's a myth that Russia has endless bodies to feed into the meat grinder. In this finely balanced contest of wills, the decisions of outside actors, and especially Donald Trump, can and will have a direct impact on who appears to be winning. And that's why Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky are both so keen to get the American president's ear. So where does that leave the peace talks? Well, at the moment, Russia appears to have the upper hand, but Vladimir Putin knows it may not last. The longer he fights, the greater risks he incurs. Ukraine and Europe know they're on the back foot, but they also know their position is far from hopeless and that there are good grounds to fight on.